Hello and welcome to Obsessed, the podcast about the things we know and love, and we just haven't found the person to talk about it yet. I'm here with Rebecca, my tutor from the first semester of my certificate. Thanks for being here.
No worries,
Rebecca
thank you.
McLean.
Yes, that's it.
That's the full name.
Yeah.
You're a very talented writer, director, producer, band manager. Thanks for coming. Thanks for agreeing to be on this. I really appreciate it.
No worries. I'm honoured to be invited.
How long have you been directing? Directing, writing.
Throw that in, why not? It's all a performance.
Yes, yeah, I guess so. How long have you been doing all this stuff?
The media stuff.
Media stuff, yeah.
Well, I found my way. I finished high school. Probably I left it a year early. I didn't do my HSC at the time. I did TOP, and after TOP was tertiary orientation program.
Yeah.
And then I went and did. I got involved in community radio.
Yeah.
So in Fitz or Collingwood, with three community radio 3CR.
Yeah.
And that changed my life because I think when I was, you're leaving. I left home. I left school. I was, chasing around things to do, and you lose your way a bit. And then finding something like community radio set me on my path. And then I haven't looked back since. From the community radio, community television. It was Channel 31.
Yeah.
Which and open channel. I did all sorts of courses around from Holmes Glen, TAFE. I did technical stuff. I just loved it all, and I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And so I basically started in the same sort of courses that you've done. Yeah. And I went on. I ended up in Victoria at the Swinburne TAFE and did the undergrad film course in 1991, 92, 93. Then started making short films and all of that. That was a great opportunity. I highly recommend people to do something like that.
Do you remember the first short film you did?
Yeah, well, the first short film was at film school. I mean, we did lots of little films, 3-minute exercise, and this and that. And then I made the one was called probably the graduating film, Proboscis. What was that? That was in 93. And there was a problem with the we were filming. We shot on 16mm in at Swinburne, so we did everything in video in first year, second year, and third year we did exercises in second year with 16mm, but third year everything was in 16mm, so you had to do there was a lot of pressure on there, and there was something at the lab. It was a problem with my film. They got it caught in the gate or something, so I got to make a second film when I got out of film school.
Right.
And so that was one I made, Queenie, which I really loved, and I got a second chance at the bite.
What was Queenie about?
Well, Queenie was about it was a series of, it was like a mockumentary. It was just a series of short interviews I did with people about this fictitious person. I asked them all questions. So by the answers and cutting together all the different answers, I was creating an image of a character in people's minds. Yeah. And then at the end there was this woman who was the character Queenie.
Well, she's a fucking slut, right?
Yeah, she's a fucking rag.
I think she's a lovely lady.
You're going to get your hair fucking cut like her.
Oh, well, I agree with you that she is a beautiful person.
It was a fictitious character anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of how hearsay and gossip, people get ideas in their mind about a person, and it's based around not the actual person.
Yeah.
It's just hearsay and gossip. You can get, it's where things get out of control when you don't you're not responding to the people that you're with.
Yeah.
And taking an interest in what they're about rather than what people say about them.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was what it was about.
I love that kind of stuff. I like that it's sort of like, you didn't necessarily have an idea of what that character was until you did the interviews with people. Did they know what what it was going to be about, or had you
Well,
sort of
I interviewed all different people about, and they're all dressed up characters. Like
Yeah.
they're all the people I interviewed. I said, well, you could be this person or that person. So they're all dressed up and crazy
Yeah.
characters anyway.
I think she has charisma.
Absolutely beautiful buttocks.
She's lovely.
What?
She looks like my mum.
If you really want my honest opinion,
She's a fucking local
Yeah,
bike.
everybody's been
She's a
on
fucking
it.
local bike because everybody's still there, like when I fucking on it.
And I asked them about one. I was asking about the Queen of England, what she like, and then I asked other people about Marilyn Monroe. So I was interviewing them and saying, "Oh, what do you think about the Queen?" "Oh, well, says one. I think she's no good. We don't need her in this
Oh,
country."
And then you can
I
take
took
them
them all out of
context
context.
to make the new this other character called
yeah,
Queenie.
yeah.
Oh, that's it. That's I like that. That's
It was
so
cute.
cool. Yeah,
it was
that's
fun.
cool.
It was great fun. We all.
I was reading. You sent me like a bit of like a filmography of the stuff you had done.
Uh-huh.
I noticed you had a short film in Tropfest.
Yes, that was called Deep.
I wanted if you could explain to people who maybe don't know what Tropfest is.
Right.
Because I remember Tropfest specifically because I remember growing up on like ABC 3, they would show a lot of Tropfest films and they
Yep.
would talk to people who were in Tropfest.
Yep.
And I was always really excited watching the Tropfest films.
Well,
Can you explain what that is?
So Tropfest started in Sydney. There was a cafe called Tropicana Cafe. It was a classic, a bit like our Mario's or whatever, in Sydney, near the Cross, and Darlinghurst or whatever. And some filmmakers there said, "Oh, why don't we have this idea for a festival?" And it was based around just one phrase, one idea. And then they'd put it out, and people would get the word the week before, or 2 weeks, or whatever it was, a month or however long.
Yeah.
And you have to. Everyone had the same amount of time to make the film, and it was meant to be 7 minutes, no more than 7 minutes long, and based on it. So the year I did it, I thought, well, it's because I was trying to make films. I'd finished film school and I wanted to, get out there and get amongst it. And so I thought, I'm going to make a Tropfest film. And I got all my friends from film school and my other mates, and we all got together and made this film. So the theme was the kiss. And so we, it could be anything. People do a romantic kiss, this kiss, a
Kiss of death.
kiss
whatever.
of death. So anyway, did you see the film?
No, I haven't
Oh.
seen it yet, but
so
I'll put a link to it in the description
put a
of the
link
podcast.
to it. It's a comedy film. I don't really. It's a bit hard to describe, but I won't give. If I tell you what it's about, it'll give away the thing. But it was a comedy, and it was filmed down where I grew up, down in Carrum, Frankston Way.
Yeah.
And it's got Sharpie themes, and Sharpie is the youth subculture of this 70s or late 60s, 70s, and and part of the glam. And I did a lot of research. I got 4 projects, Sharpie projects. One of them, I did a film. Queenie had some in the film. Queenie, there were a couple of Sharpie characters in it. So they're sort of foul mouth girls. At a pinball.
Is it like punk rock sort of, or?
Oh no, it's pre-punk. It
pre-punk?
was. But so in the 50s you had your rockers.
Yeah.
And you had your bodgies and widgies in Australia.
What's a bodgie?
Or a bodgie and a widgie. So bodgies and widgies. So Australian culture with the Anglo culture was all based around England, home, and so everything was English set. And then with we had all sorts of wars and everything else, and there was the depression, people coming out the depression in the 50s, and then everybody was buying everything. It was a very conservative time, and then moving into the 60s. There were all these people who were sick of the conservatism and the wars were being dragged in.
And stuff.
We were getting dragged into wars. So there was a big protest movement in the 60s. And so in the 50s, you had your bodgies and widgets. It was starting to be more influenced by the Americans.
Right.
We're getting
yeah.
American culture was being imported over here.
Yeah.
And so you had this merging of American culture, English culture, and then in the 50s with a lot of Italians and Greeks and all these different people coming to Australia who were invited here. We now whinge on, but they were invited here to support Australia in building the country.
That's where my family came
and that's
over.
right. So where were they from?
My grandma was from Greece. Their family was from Greece.
Yeah.
And there was one time my family was from Greece. There was some like Greek people who were living in like Alexandria, Egypt.
Yeah, great.
And then the others were coming as a result of like World War II. They came from like Poland, so they came down through Germany and they got a ferry or boat over.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So so there was all the great skills that were coming in, the great food and the great different culture that was coming in. So you then had like Italian knitwear. With the Conti family.
Yeah.
Would come over and they brought a knit, as people arrived, family members, they found something for them to do. All right, well, you can make the cardigans. We need cardigans. You can't get a cardigan here if your life depended on it. Make us a cardigan. The same with the Jews would make, and my family, my mother's family are Jewish, tailors, they'd have tailored pants. And then the Greeks were doing the cobblers making all those amazing shoes, the chiseled toes, and I mean, because I think, and you'd be able to attest to this, that when people from Europe who are much more sophisticated were coming here, they couldn't find the clothes and the style that they were used to in Europe, and Greece and all that. So they had to make their own stuff. And then the Aussies liked it and started, I like your jacket. Where'd you get that? Oh, my uncle made it. Oh, can he make us one? Yeah, sure.
And that sort of like melded into its own culture here in
Australia. That's
Australia.
it. And that was the Sharpies had their short back and sides, but with a tail at the back, the little tail. And they had, and it was a bit like the David Bowie.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's a bit of England. You got a bit of Greece, Italian, American. And the dance came out, and there was even Aboriginal influence in there as well. There's a lot of Aboriginal people in Australia who were part of this Sharpie culture, and the dance moves, and it was a little bit of the, the rocker sort of style as well. So I was fascinated by all that, and went on a long journey of interviewing, doing a documentary. So I was making a documentary. Oh, I've got some Sharpie characters. I thought I'll make a feature film. So I came out of film school. I'm going to make a feature film. Just like that.
Yeah, as easy as that.
As easy as that.
How hard could it be?
How could it? That's right. So I did I wrote scripts and all that. I got a little bit of money from Film Victoria, but then in order to do my research, my friend said, "Oh, you should make a doco." So then I was making a documentary as well, and then. In the end, it took 15 years. I met a lot of Sharpies. The whole Sharpie thing's come out of this now. There's bands, and because you sort of unearth this stuff, and they just went for it. There's there was a pride, not in the violent side of it, because there was some violence that crept into it. But originally, it was more about style. Yeah. And I interviewed Lobby Lloyd, who was a very, a great rock and roll muso from Australia. He saw it all happening, and the Sky Hooks, and I spoke to a lot of Greg McCain and all those guys. So there's a lot of history that I unearthed and pulled together. I'm still working on that documentary. If you want to help us out with that one, that's it. That's another one I got on the back. But I did a teaser, so I did a short one, which is Suburban Warriors, and then I did Deep, which is the short comedy drama, and then I did. I had Queenie, which is the original one, had those two Sharpie characters, and I've also did another like a documentary teaser for the networks that had to, because I couldn't get any money because they're saying it was too parochial for Melbourne. So they said if it's going to go on ABC or SBS, it has to have a national focus because it's got to relate to everybody. Yeah. And then I had to go and find a whole lot of Sharpies across the country. It's like, this is getting. Then I did I've got a series based around all of the youth subcultures, from the bodgies and the widgies, like the bodgies, the widgies, the rockers, the mods, the Sharpies, the skins, all of that, all the way through to what was 10
Yeah.
years ago when I stopped doing it. And I had a lot of help from a lot of great other researchers as well. So there's a lot of I will, now that I'm back living in Melbourne, I will try and unearth that project again.
I didn't know anything about any of those subcultures. That's something that I'm gonna have to. I'll put some links in the description. I might ask you.
Yeah.
Do you have some things we
I've
can share with people?
I've got 4
so
films.
that people can know what we're talking about when we're talking about it.
That's all documented.
But that's amazing. You also did some stuff with like SBS and ABC though, right? You did a documentary called Save Our Sons.
I did. That's right.
What was that about?
So Save Our Sons was about a group of women who've well, no, that's what this T-shirt's about. A group of women, including my mother, Jean McLean, who protested against our involvement in the Vietnam War, because Mum had a passion and interest in world politics, and she'd grown up in a political household, people who thought about and read a lot and learned about what was going on in the world, and didn't just accept what the status quo and the government of the day told you. So when they were sending in advisors, the Americans were leading us to go and send out, like they are now, over to Vietnam to spy on the Vietnamese and blah, blah. Well, she was aware of that. And then when they brought in conscription overnight, they did it in the Parliament in 1965, or was it late 64? I should know this, I made the doco. It was when I was born. I was born in 1965. So Mum was in the hospital organising protests when I was just born, basically. So I was born in the middle of a bit of an action,
Wow.
So she had a group of women, and they formed a group called Save Our Sons, SOS, and they were all in those days, because we're talking early 60s, it was hats and gloves and all of that, and they presented themselves as very non-confronting, and they'd go down to the barracks in Richmond, where they were See, what happened is the government did a sneaky thing, and they brought in conscription, which our country, Australia's been anti-conscription forever, and we had a referendum in 1914 or whatever, and we voted against it then, and we've always been we don't believe in conscription. Right, and so they changed the legislation, but they got the Parliament. There was about 3 people left in the Parliament, and they'd worked it all out how they could push it through, and they just did it in the dead of night. In the morning, on the newspaper, people woke up, conscription you're off to Vietnam, and they did this terrible Tattersall ballot. They got the Tats Lotto barrel.
That was done through Tats?
The Tats Lotto barrel had all the numbers, right? You put in the numbers, and they spin it around, and they pull out a ball and go, number 13, if you had number 13 or whatever, you'd win. In this case,
that's like the day
each number would relate to a set of dates. So if they pulled out number 13, that would relate to everyone born on all these dates that would be in the newspaper. So Josh, would get in the paper and look down and say, oh, that number's, am I conscripted? And you'd have to look and they go, oh my God, I'm conscripted. They're going to have to turn up at the barracks in a week's time and go be trained to how to kill people and then go out and murder people. And my mum objected, and all these other talked to all her friends and other women, and they said, well, I don't want my son to be conscripted. Well, let's get together and do something about it. And that's what they did, and they had a lot of resistance from people who were saying, we've got to go and fight, protect our country. But well, are we protecting our country, or are we just murdering people? Because they're not coming here, and they don't have America's gone in there. They didn't ask to, they'd got their country back, and America decided they were going to go in there and murder all these people. They wanted us to go and assist them, and we're saying we're not going to, we shouldn't be doing this. But off we went, and they fought for 10 years. So they protested, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. Started off with 5 women at the barracks, and the poor kids, some of them would run off. Mum's got some amazing stories. The kids would just run off and say, "Oh, can I come with you?" Okay, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
jump in the car and off we go. And
Jeez.
she had underground, hiding places for everything because it was illegal then.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's what they did for 10 years, and I made a film about it, so you can have a link to that as
Yeah.
well.
I'll have that on my list.
You can buy it from Ronan, download it. It's only about $6 or something, but
go.
it's worth it. It's an hour long.
Yeah.
But it tells the story of the women and the mothers and the wives and the aunties and all that who objected to and because what they did is they educated them about the true issues, because they're not, and that's the case here too. All this is what's happening in Palestine and Gaza and all. It was all no proper
the Sunday protests every week.
But there's lack of real information for our country to be saying they're scared to oppose this or put sanctions against Israel because they're scared that that misinformation out there, and people,
100%.
the majority of people aren't hearing. They're not hearing what the protesters are protesting for.
Yeah.
They're anti-Semitic. Well, I'm Semitic. I'm Jewish, but I don't believe in, and not in my name, to go and kill other people. They're murdering millions of people. That's not right.
It's genocide.
It's genocide. We've got to stop that
Yeah.
at any cost. When people talk about Semitic and the Rip and Lee and all that, I say, well, isn't it about racism? It's all racism. It's bad. That's racism. All racism is bad.
Yeah.
It's not. This is a focus on this particular, and calling it
just specific
anti-Semitic was
anti-Semitic.
bullshit.
Yeah.
It's and there's fascists around. Well, we allow them to grow and develop. We don't mind if they're going and punching out, all new people like they did with the Greeks, the Italians when they come. There was a racism there, and there's racism now.
It does stand out to me because I think about I'm pretty sure this is I remember back when Italians and Greeks were coming, they were saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's just different waves of immigration. They say the same bullshit.
Fear.
Create
fear. They're going to take your jobs. They're going to take your women.
Yeah.
They eat funny food. Oh, that must be, but and now everybody embraces it. You can't get into a restaurant in Lygon Street, or whatever. Coffee, everybody can't get enough coffee. Well, Italians brought them, Greeks brought coffee.
100%.
I mean, they pick what they like, and it's Anglo culture of the colonisation is just bad to the core. The whole concept of it, and we're a penal colony. They just dumped people here, and then see everybody, see Aboriginal people as prisoners. And that's the way they're going to, want to keep them there, and the prisons are full.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me really angry, to be honest. I think about earlier this year, the treaty vote. Just the amount of, and the other thing was I was surprised with the amount of conversations I had with people who were more or less on the center left side of spectrum, who was still not understanding the conversation that was being had, and not understanding what was going on. And a lot of people were focusing on, because there were two parts to it. Anyway, it's endless. Right. It's endless. It's hard to.
It's misinformation.
And
lack of. And these phones we're all addicted to. I'm addicted to it as well. Yeah, your attention span, and you get a little bit of information here, a little bit, but you're not getting the full. You're not getting a proper, in-depth look at and understanding. Spending the time to actually understand the issues and the history and the context, all of that. And now, and my mum was always saying, and I listened to her, is we've got these billionaire people over in America, for example. She talks about the Koch brothers, right? There's this, and people say, oh, it's anti-Semitic to question these guys. Well, they're capitalists in a major capitalists. Who cares whether they're Jewish or what they are? What they are is they're funding all of these big campaign, these right-wing campaigns across
Yeah.
the world, and they're lobbying, they're paying for Trump, they're paying for Gina Reinhart and Trump and Dutton and Pauline
Yeah.
Hanson and all these divisive, negative, it's
'Cause it
paid for.
benefits them.
Of course it does.
Yeah, 100%.
They want to take over this country's minerals, they just want to wipe, they just see it as one big
Yeah.
mine, and
Yeah.
we're just incidentals, and especially Aboriginal people are absolutely, they want them off the land. They can't believe anymore. What, they gave them what land rights? Oh, for
Yeah.
God's sake, get
Yeah.
out of the way. That's the truth of the matter.
Yeah.
I see it. I'm working out bush a lot. I spend a lot of time out in the remote
We can-
communities.
I'd love to talk a bit about it because you work with a out bush a lot. You
Yeah.
work out bush and you work with with a band,
That's right.
Multiple Hard Rock.
That's it.
Because you were in Melbourne. How did you get to working out bush? Working up in
How did
how
that?
did you get
All
out
right.
there?
Okay, well, I was in Sydney, and at the time, I was working for a television program called Missing Persons Unit. I was out at Glebe. That contract finished, and it wasn't starting up again. It was typical TV when you're a
Yeah.
a freelancer. The job would go to a period of time, and it ended end of November, and it wouldn't start again till February. So you're unemployed for a few months.
Yeah.
So I was looking for more work, and I was just going through Screen Hub. It's this
Yep.
it's online thing. I'm going through looking for jobs, and I saw I saw this job. I'd been in North Queensland on a holiday, and I kind of got in a 4-wheel drive and did a little bit of bush trips, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this is fun, and then I saw this job going in. It was called PY Media, Pinjara Yanyanjara Media, and I saw it, and it had a job description. It went a mile long. It was 54,000. I was on 75 or something at the time. It was a drop in pay, and it was out bush. It came with a car, a phone, a house out bush. And it was 50-50 Alice Springs and out out on the APY lands, which is
Yeah.
500 k's south.
Yeah.
In South Australia, it was across the border, and I sort of thought, oh God, that's a long list of jobs for not a lot of money, but I sort of piqued my interest. So
Yeah.
I had a friend in Alice, and I sort of said, because it was this is 2004 or 5, saying the murder capital of Australia and all this,
Yeah.
and I'm like, fuck. Anyway, so I ended up going for the job. And I got it, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when they said, it took no time at all, and I got the job. And my mum said, well, no, they're lucky to have you. Of course you got the job. They.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh, well, anyway, next thing you know, instead of going, I was living in Sydney, so I packed up my stuff, went to Melbourne, and put stuff in storage or whatever. I didn't have a lot. I was just camping at someone's friend's house, but got whatever I had. And then just jumped on a plane and went up to Alice Springs.
Yeah.
And then went on they took me on an orientation trip out bush, and that was it. That was my induction into remote, remote.
Yeah.
And I was with them for about, I don't know, lasted about 11 months, and then I ended up working in Alice Springs and also out at Yuendamu. So I went and worked for Karma, Central Australian Aboriginal Media Association, series producing a program there for the NIT, the first slate of NITV programs. And then I went out to, did a bit of stuff out at Yuendamu, and I just came and went, and I've been coming and going ever since.
And how did you get into working with Multiple Hard Rock?
So I'd been in the desert for a while. Then I went back to Melbourne for 5 years. I went and did more stuff with Open Channel, and so I'd kept in that sort of community.
Yeah.
I was doing a program called Yarnin in Victoria with a couple of guys I know well, Bobby Nichols, and who's lives in Shepparton. He's Yorta Yorta multi-clan.
Yeah.
Multi-clan. And then with another guy, Johnny Harding. So we set up this program with Open Channel called Yarnin, which we're recording elders' stories with young people. So because it was a training body, we got young. We worked with the schools and found all different regions around the regional and recorded. Trained the young kids to interview their elders about history and land rights and all that, and that was fantastic. That's online as well. And then I ended up going back up north, but went to Darwin then, and I worked in Darwin. Ended up there, and then I met. I was at Bachelor Institute of Indigenous Tertiary Education teaching media there, and then I got transferred down to Alice Springs, and I was running a short course called. It was a multi-cam production course, and I accessed the studio, Imparja Studio, in town, and I recruited bands, and I found a couple of bands. So I was get 2 bands, one would play, one would record, and then they'd swap, and then they'd come out of a 3-week course with a music video. It was beautiful, and so I met this band, and I just fell in love with them. I just thought they were fabulous, and then it was a few months later, we got the course up and running, and we just had so much fun. Yeah. And then I basically, we all got on. We were vibing, and it wasn't just there was a band, plus there was all the family. So we ended up with the whole family in the studio there at Imparja. People just wanted to keep enrolling, so we ended up with all the family getting certificates. So it was a skill set. Short course. Yeah. They came out with some VE units like you've done. They got 6 units. How many in the Cert 4? 13. I think there's 13 in the.
I think
there's
so,
roughly. I think there's 13 in the Cert 4. So they got 6 units, and then they love Kiss, so they wanted to get makeup. They kept saying, "Oh, can we get makeup and costume?" So. And between me and
you're also underselling this because they opened for Kiss.
Yeah, well, this is first. They liked Kiss.
Yeah,
and then we said. Then I made. So we did the course, and that didn't. But we used the little video that they made because they put some makeup on and whatever and played. But the song was good. I loved the song. They had to come with a recorded song, which they had. The one we've got now is their first release from the album.
What's that one called?
It's called Young Men or Yangabala Mapa. Which is young men, and it's about. There's a link to this beautiful story that that Vamp TV did recently, where Alvin's interviewed about that song and about that release. Which
I'll put all the.
It's really lovely.
All these things will be in the description of the podcast.
Fantastic.
Definitely worth checking out everything because it's so great. I really like their music as well.
The music's great. That's what got me in. I just, that, and the energy, the fun, the energy.
It's not just like it's both like it's unique in a way. Like it sounds sort of like classic rock. Like, who did you describe it as? Like almost like a jumping jack flash sort of.
Well, they're influence. Well, Alvin self-proclaimed he's influenced from as his parents and uncles and everybody. The early Chuck Berry.
Chuck Berry, that's the person
Little Richard, Elvis, all of those 50. There's that we're talking about the American influences coming to Australia. That was part of that. The Black American,
100%.
And a lot of Aboriginal people related to that. It was the first time they seen black musicians that they could relate to, and they loved the music. So Warumpi Band, No Fix Address, Coloured Stone, they're all influenced by these black American great artists, and they had a simpatico. They had that same sort of been ripped off.
100%.
So but they rocked it, and these kids influenced by that. Pure hard rock and with glam, they love the Kiss thing. So AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, that all start to influence. Yeah. And Alvin just when he saw Kiss, like his dad had shown him or whatever, and he's seeing it on the YouTube for the first time, he's just going, "Oh my God, that's why he was humbugging me for makeup." And when we were in the studio, "Oh, do you think we could get this and that to dress up?" And I said, "Well, imagine if we got Kiss actually in your clip. Wouldn't that be cool?"
Yeah.
And then someone said, "Oh, they're coming to Australia in a couple of months." Yeah. So that then my mission then
was to try to get them on stage.
Well, no, my mission was just to get them some tickets and to meet them. And then miraculously through all this, me knocking on a million doors and trying everything, no one would have imagined, least of all me, that they would get, to open for Kiss, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
It was incredible. So it was Gina Riley, who I know, I grew up with. She was I was talking to everybody, and then I thought someone mentioned Paul Dainty, and I knew she had a connection with Paul Dainty, and I said, Gina, I'm trying to do this. What do you think? She goes, leave it with me. And she rang around, talked to. She happened to be having a meeting with Dainty, and she just let her and her husband Rick said, blah blah blah. It wasn't Dainty who was the promoter. He said, but it's Andrew McManus, and so he arranged for me to send an email to him. To Dainty, who sent it over to McManus, and he then offered. I mean, I did a lot more humbug pushing, whatever, and then he responded out of the blue. When I got the email, my heart sank. I just could not believe it.
Yeah.
And then I had to go out bush and tell the kids. So I played it really downplayed.
Yeah.
I didn't want to. I just wanted to play really deadpan.
Yeah.
Oh, because they're always asking me. So, if you heard from Kiss, it's like as if.
Yeah.
I'm like as if.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I go out and think, how you've been asking about Kiss? Yeah. I said, oh well, you wouldn't believe it. They go, yeah. I said, they've asked you to play. What do you reckon? And they kind of, yeah, what?
Yeah.
And then it sort of. Then we all get all sunk in, and we were all just dancing in the classroom and getting around. It was really exciting.
That's crazy.
It was.
Wow.
And then I helped. Went around. We raised $60,000 to take the whole family. Wasn't good enough. I was going to just take the kids, take not just the immediate family, take the whole family. So there's 30 mob. We all went over to Gold Coast.
Yeah.
And we got. Yeah, it was massive. It turned into a massive. Amazing experience for everybody. It was very fun. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit just about sort of just general sort of stuff, like when you're writing something, what's your process for writing?
For writing for a film script?
Yeah, for screenwriting. What's your process?
Well, I haven't done it for a long time. I have to say, most of what I've been doing.
It's documentary stuff.
Is documentaries and writing treatments and.
You can.
It's something I'd love to do again, but it's you just get so caught up in so many different. Now I'm a band manager,
Yeah.
But what I love about band managing is, as a filmmaker, then I'm like, well, we need to make a music video. So because I'm not. Yeah, it's hard to raise money. But we've kept for that period of time. But I've kept raising enough money to just keep us on the road. Yeah. And because gigs don't pay enough, obviously. We get invited to places which don't pay enough to actually warrant our trips, but we managed to raise some money. Some of them do have. Urine Boy we did down here. But so I ended up making this music video, which I love. And that's very exciting for me to be making films again in that way, and I'm filming the documentary. Yeah. So which you're very generously helping out with. So and it's a great exchange, though, isn't it? I think it's so fun. So I mean, I've been documenting it as I go, and collecting anything that anybody films along the way, so that. I've just socking it away, as you can see. There's there's stuff on phones, there's stuff on videos, there's good cameras, bad cameras, and everything in between. Yeah. And photos, but the process then is about collating and ordering. Yeah. And that's where we're at. So I'm looking for a room that we can house this project. So then we get the cards out, and this is the same process for any script, whether it be a feature film or for me, it's about order and
sort of finding the flow of the story and stuff like
getting
that.
The space, getting your space right, finding the right space to be in, so you can leave stuff. You don't have to pack up and everything all the time. Yeah. Or if you do, you have a series of cards that's in an order, so you can. I'm a visual. I'm a very visual thinker. I like to see things in pictures. Something that and. find that flow
Yeah.
of the story. And I mean, I find physically sitting at a computer, which I end up doing a lot of, is I have a crook neck. So I don't like that.
From like a documentary perspective, then, like, do you have any particular like documentary filmmakers or documentaries in general that you would consider like inspirational? That inspire you. That's the word to.
I love the observational documentaries.
Do any specifically come to mind?
Well, the films that like the early 60s and 70s, my era, I guess, documentaries, like my memory is for names of it, but the early film about the Rolling Stones, that incredible.
I don't know what this is, but I would look into this.
Yeah, so the one that, and we should stop and Google.
We can do that now. Actually, I'll check for you.
Yeah, the name that there's the brothers that they followed around the Rolling Stones and they went to this massive concert where they hired I think it was like a free concert, but they hired the
Gimme Shelter.
Gimme Shelter, and they hired the Maisel brothers, the Maisels, the Maisel filmmaker. I love them.
Do you mind starting that sentence again?
Yes.
I'll ask you the question.
Okay.
Do you have any particular films that inspire you?
Well, in terms of what I'm doing now with the rock and roll, I love observational documentaries. I've been influenced by those. I've been influenced by all the films from the 30s and 40s, the surrealist movement. I love all that. But then with the documentary,
Xian Andalou.
yes, I love
stuff,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, all those Buñuel.
Yep.
Then these, in terms of what I'm doing now, with the documentary about Mulga Bore and the making of a young, of a teenage band into rock stars. Give Me Shelter by the Maisel brothers, and those guys doing.
I've not watched this one. I should look into this.
And when as things unfold, and just getting all of that raw material. See, people are saying to me all the time, "Well, trying to get funding for this documentary, right, about the band."
Yeah.
It's like, well, what's the film about? I said, well, it's starting off it's about these kids, but I don't know where it's going to go because anything could happen,
Yeah.
And that will determine what it's about is when because we start off, they do a Kiss gig, but then what happens? Then we've been on the road here and we're road there as they evolve. Now, if I didn't film anything along, people say, oh, you filmed too many concerts. Well, you just don't know which concert's going to be the one.
Yeah, and that's what the observational documentary part is. Like, you need to get as much of it as possible to go into later to put it together. I guess
that's right, and to show the different and as much as possible. Like, it's harder for me because most of the time I'm the one generating the forward move. So, I've sort of try and film little things with myself. Even in the car, if I'm driving along and saying, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that, because someone like Andrew McManus, can you believe it, has just rung me and this is,
100%.
you know what I mean?
Rather
than just seeing an email, you want to get the immediate response from that person. It happens to be me.
Yeah.
But then can you film me and I'll just tell you what's just happened?
100%.
It'd be great to have a team on board. It's hard to be the centre, in it and out of it. So it's always been a bit of a compromise with me with this film because I'm all the time I'm organising stuff, so I'm really busy. Yeah, and too busy to film, and too even busy to try and get the money to pay a team to come and follow the story. So, but that's the nature of this film. So that it'll find its own style.
I think this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you.